Our special town meeting is open. As I understand it, we're here because back at town meeting in March, we approved Article 5, which said we would purchase a truck at a price not to exceed $100,000. We always knew it would cost more, but the $35,000 hoped for trade-in was subtracted from the cost of the truck when it went into the article. So today the question is, we're not buying a bigger, fancier truck. It's not that we had no idea how much the truck was going to cost. It was a mistake in saying that we would only take $100,000 out of the capital fund.
We'd only take what?
$100,000 out of the capital fund. We need to take more even if we do get the trade-in. These guys need our permission to spend more on the truck. And what happens to the $35,000 if that's what we get on the trade-in?
It goes right back into the capital fund.
Okay. So it's understandable why this mistake might have been made, but the reality is we need to approve the full price of the truck. Do you want to add anything?
I think that covers it. These also, Chamberlain's online too, so he can speak up if I speak out of turn. If we'd written this better, it would have said something along the lines of to purchase a truck not to exceed $135,000 with not more than $100,000 coming from the capital fund. So it's still the same amount of capital fund. The $135,000 will be reimbursed once the other truck is sold, which can't be done until the other truck shows up. So this is a number of years before this truck's going to show up. So we can't sell the current plow truck and have that money until after we get the new truck in place. And the reason it went to 141 instead of 136, as you see on for the total for everything, is there is, and we didn't know this in March either, once you start talking to the dealers, there's concern that there may be tariffs that are going to come on the truck that could be $5,000 or $6,000 extra dollars. So that's why it's 141 total instead of just 136. So this will give us enough money to offset the tariffs, but the sale of the truck will not offset the tariffs. If those are in place, we don't know what those are.
Jerry?
So are we trading in or are we selling? I mean, I've heard you both say that, and I thought we were outright selling. So do we have a blue book on this if we are outright selling?
We are selling, and I'll answer the question why.
Yes, we are selling it outright. The last few vehicles we've done this, we're able to sell it for more than what they were going to give it for trade. The problem is we have to wait for the body to be put on. So even if that happens in June or July of next year, we would be selling the used truck after that.
Okay, is this a trade? What was the trade-in for this, Lee? Because I'm assuming this is the truck that sat in the garage for 4 months waiting for the part. Am I thinking of the right trucks?
No.
Okay, different
No.
one, right.
So we didn't trade it in because you buy the cab and chassis first, and they would take it for trade-in, and then you would not have the plow truck for the winter. So the cab and chassis will probably come in December, just say. And if you had traded it in, they would have taken the plow truck then.
Right. Now, I get what you're saying. Do you have a blue book on this of the value of it, just so that you know what I mean, that we got a rough ballpark, but you're thinking it's 35 on the blue book?
That is just looking online for the equivalent trucks. There's not a blue book. I never looked up a blue book.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else have a question? Paul?
Question was, did they offer, did you get an offer on a trade-in? How much they'll give you on a trade-in?
Did you hear that, Lee?
No, I did not get an offer on the trade-in because we would end up not having the truck during the winter. So we were forced to sell it outright. And going forward, because of the lack of body dealers, this will probably be the way we have to do it. We'll have to sell all the trucks outright instead of getting, trade-in them in.
One at a time, we're gonna conduct this like town meeting, so I saw your hand, Jody.
Well, I'm really confused because I've been watching the select board meetings and when this came about, and your explanation of it was totally different than what I got from the select board meetings. You're saying it was a mistake and it was really going to be this figure and that figure. And I got from the select board meetings that it wasn't a mistake, that we just didn't realize that we needed to spend the amount of money. So I guess I want to query the select board.
I would say it's both. So
Now I'm worse.
well, so I'm not really familiar with truck purchases. It's the first one. So the chassis and the body and the recouping of money through the sale of the truck, I believe, is what was in Lee's mind the whole time. That was not necessarily clear to at least me on the board that it was going to be more than 100,000 when we sat there in March. And then afterwards, when he came in with the bids, I'm like, so the truck's only $77,000 or $70,289. So we have an extra 30. He goes, well, we have to get the stuff put on it, which is the body part. I'm like, all right. So it's a truck and its components that have to be included in the entire bill so that we know what the number is. So I think in Lee's mind, and he can correct me, I think in Lee's mind, he knew what he was doing as far as the offset. I think it's like the, was it tractor that we sold last year? Something similar to that, where the sale of the truck plus the 100,000 was going to cover the cost of the truck, but that wasn't clear. So there, you see what I'm saying? Where there's both going on. I think Lee was clear in his mind. I don't think I was. I went with the rest of the board that it was going to be over 100,000.
But when you went to write the article, nobody on the board knew differently than you. You all thought the same thing, so that you wrote the article just for the $100,000.
For the budget, for the money that was needed to offset the rest of the truck. The 100,000.
Okay,
But it's real quick, I would write it differently, as I said earlier. What the price of the truck is, and that's separate from how much is coming from the capital fund. And then it'd be clear.
Carol?
Yeah, is the offer from Faith, does that include the cab? And is it a 10-wheeler or 8-wheeler?
Lee, did you hear that question?
Yeah, it's a 550 Ford, 1 ton, 1.5 ton truck.
It's only a ton and a half?
Yes. Other questions, Paul?
Two things. One, I originally was under the impression that the money was going to come out of the general fund and not the capital fund. And that's the way I read the warning, and I don't know, maybe I read it incorrectly, but I want to know, where's the money coming from? Is it the capital fund that's going to come out
Yes.
of?
The original article was, shall the voters authorize the purchase of a truck at a price not to exceed $100,000 and to pay for said purchase from the capital fund?
Yeah, that was the original, but what was the warning for tonight?
Shall the voters authorize $41,000 in addition to the $100,000 approved in March for the purchase of a truck at a price not to exceed $141,000 and to pay for said purchase from the capital
Okay,
fund?
thank you, I must have misread that. But my second question is, has anybody thought about transferring the dump body and the plow to, to the new truck? And if you did that, you'd save $41,000.
Lee has the answer to that. We have considered Lee transferring the the body from the old to the new.
So,
Wow.
right, it would still have to go through the body shop. The body shop you would not get it into the body shop any earlier. So it would still end up being, we're just going to say June, July of next year before it was done. And then you would have a 8-9-year-old body on a brand new truck. So then you would have to schedule another appointment at the body shop when that one, was, because I don't believe that's going to last for 2 cabin chassis. It's only if we did do that, it might make it through another, let's just say 4 years, say. So you'd end up, it would just.
Why do we know that?
I'm sorry?
Why do we know that it won't last any longer? I mean, do we have any history with, what happens to the old truck? I mean, it runs until the truck dies and then somebody salvages the body and the plow?
I have a question. I thought when we talked about this that the additional components were compatible. I thought that's what we discussed.
The additional components were on the,
But what Paul's saying, I thought that what we said was that it wasn't compatible with the new truck.
it wasn't compatible.
Like it wouldn't fit. That
Yes.
was the reason.
Frame is different.
So, no, but that's.
Is that right?
And it would also, I think, affect the resale value
Right.
of the truck when you went to sell it, if it did not have.
Yeah, but if you have a truck, if you're replacing stuff that you don't have to pay for, whatever you get for the truck is bonus. You see what I'm saying? If you don't have to buy a body and a plow, and you get, say, $10,000 for the truck or $15,000, that's $10,000 or $15,000 you wouldn't have had, you don't.
Well, the way I look at it is, it's a light duty, basically a light duty truck. It's not a real dump truck. It's a heavy duty 1-ton truck.
Yeah.
And the body takes a beating. 8 years old, it's has some hard knots.
Well, I'll defer to people who know more about it than I do.
Yeah, and I think Lee Shirley is in that category after all these years. Jody?
Well, I'm very concerned because last year I think we spent up 18%, 17, 18%. The budget went up. This year, the budget without this is what, 13, 14%? And then you add this on, where does that go? And then the school budget's up 6.6% at least. By the time the state gets through with this, we don't know what it's going to be. And that's huge percentages for a small town like Dummerston. And I'm really concerned that, well, for several things. I'm concerned that maybe we could use our trucks longer than we're using them. Maybe we could use smaller trucks than we have, because really the majority of our roads, I believe, are dirt roads. You've got east-west and you've got middle, and that's about the only blacktop roads we have that I can think of. And I know, and I'm going back 50 years, but when we moved here, my dirt road was plowed with a pickup truck and it was just fine. And we just seem to get bigger and bigger and bigger and more expensive. And I think we have to stop, because there's a lot of people in town that can't afford their properties and their property taxes anymore. And, I'm fortunate that we don't like to, but we can afford that. But I am concerned about the other people in town. And I think we really need to stop and look. And I fussed at the school and the same thing. We really need to stop and look and see what we're spending, because I don't think we can continue in the way that we're continuing. So I think, personally, I think this $40,000 could be found in the budget somewhere. And I would ask the select board to find it, because you can tell me what that would increase that would be. I haven't figured out, I'm not a mathematician.
Well, I can't answer I'll leave it to Lee and the more experts to talk about truck size and use of trucks and things like that. But as far as the tax bill is concerned, if there are no tariffs, it has no effect on the tax bill. Because we budgeted 100,000 in the capital fund. What we had budgeted or included in that was getting 35,000 or approximately 35,000 for the old truck. So the net is within $60. Now the tariffs are a different question, right? We didn't plan for tariffs, obviously. So if that comes in, then that's 6,000 or 5,000 on top of it. But as far as the budget is concerned, if it had an effect on the budget, I would have included that in this. So the price is higher, but the amount we're asking for in taxes this year is no higher than it was in March.
I guess I'll wait and see. But my question to you is, does anybody on the board feel that they could find extra money for this and not vote this in tonight?
Well, I've already started looking at the stuff for next year.
I mean this year.
Right. Well, looking at what we budgeted.
Right.
So finding $40,000 in the budget is going to be pretty rough.
I can help you there.
It's coming out of the capital fund.
Right.
It's not coming out of the general fund.
That's right. I think the question is, instead of asking for the 41,000
Yes.
extra, we just find it, take it out of high from elsewhere. So the 41 is again not an additional tax burden because we still only planned 100 and that's all we're taking.
We still have to replenish the capital fund.
No, because we put 100,000 in for the truck,
But you didn't put 141 in.
right? But we also didn't count the 35,000 for the truck coming back.
Yeah, but what,
That makes
Oh,
sense.
hold on. There are a lot of hands. Lori, you were next.
It's my understanding that what we're discussing tonight is the additional 41,000, that the purchase of the truck is a done deal. As far as it was approved at town meeting to spend up to $100,000, and this $41,000 is not going to show up on the tax bill because it's going to be coming out of the capital fund. So it's not going to hit the taxpayers' pockets this year. And the anticipated $35,000 that we're hoping to get from the sale of the truck will go back into the capital fund. So that will mean $6,000 that we'll need to make up in the capital fund probably next year. So I think that's what we really need to focus on tonight, and not whether we need more trucks, bigger trucks, longer time, or whatever. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Terry, you?
she answered my question.
Okay, great. Anybody else who hasn't spoken yet have a question?
Yeah.
Harold, I'll call on you.
Were there any other bids presented relative to the chassis and the truck?
The chassis, we had 2 bids from another Ford dealer. It was within $200 of this one. They were almost identical. The problem with the body is there's only one company that does the bodies in Vermont, and that's Viking. So everybody, in fact, statewide is having a problem with truck purchases because there's only one company that can do the bodies after you get the chassis. I have to get these terms right. So we're limited to Viking on who can do that work. And they're the long pole in the tent, right? The truck may be delivered in December, but it may not get through with its body parts and everything else and plow ready to go until the springtime based on the appointment. So they rack and stack everybody by the purchase of the chassis and the truck. But yeah, we did get multiple bids and they were almost identical. And Lee chose to go with Fates Ford, which is the $200 difference. And that's who we deal with now for maintenance and everything else. So that was why that decision was made.
So we've been discussing something without actually making a motion to approve the article. Is there someone who would like to make that motion?
Yeah, I'll do it. So Article 1, shall the voters authorize $41,000 in addition to the $100,000 approved in March for the purchase of a truck at a price not to exceed $141,000 and to pay for said purchase from the capital fund.
So you're moving that the voters authorize that,
That's correct.
okay?
I'll second it.
I did say I believe. Thank you, Bruce. That's why I have you here.
Thanks. Yes, Roger.
If you expect to get $35,000 for the trade-in, do you need to say that we need 41,000? I mean, it sounds like you only need 6.
You missed part of the meeting, Roger, where it was explained that we have to pay for the truck and the truck has to be made before we can sell the existing truck because we need it to plow next winter.
I see.
And so we can't just trade it in at the beginning, we need to hold on to it. So there's a motion on the floor to authorize $41,000 in addition to the $100,000 approved in March for the purchase of a truck at a price not to exceed $141,000 and to pay for said purchase from the capital fund. And while this isn't in the article, we know that the intention is, once we have a new truck, to sell the old truck, and the assumption is that it will bring in around $35,000, and that money will be put back into the capital fund.
I request it be by ballot.
I'm sorry?
I request ballot vote.
Are you saying you want a paper ballot?
Yes.
Okay, we need 7 people to say that there's a paper ballot. Are there that many? Raise your hand if you would like a paper ballot.
Sure.
I see 3 hands. I'm sorry, Harold, that's not enough.
Okay.
Okay.
A
Yes.
lot of people got a lot of money.
Can we write it into the article that the sale of the old truck will be put back in to the capital fund?
I believe, Marie, correct me on this, I believe it has to be.
It has to. It has to
Anything,
go
anything in the
back.
capital
It has to.
folder that's sold has to be put back in.
Okay.
Are you content with that, Bev? I mean, that's always been the practice,
All right,
and it sounds like it's,
as long as it really happens.
okay. Other questions or comments?
What would happen if this does not pass?
We don't buy a truck?
Don't buy a truck.
Have we already paid for the chassis?
We have not.
So there's not a signed contract at this point?
There is not.
Anyone else? Are you ready for the question? The motion on the floor is to authorize $41,000 in addition to the $100,000 approved in March for the purchase of a truck at a price not to exceed $141,000 and to pay for said purchase from the capital fund. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Thank you.
Didn't think it was that cut and dried.
Do you want to call for a standing vote? Or a raised arm vote? I'm fine with that. Okay, all in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Thank you, and all those opposed, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Any abstentions?
I understand.
Okay. 15 to 6.
What was the count?
15 to 6. The motion passes. All right. That is all we have on the agenda for tonight. Are you guys doing a select board meeting now? Great, stick around for that, but this is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.